it's Brandon Cunning, and here is my interview with Jimmy Harrell of Alton and Jimmy.
Hey, Brandon.
Hey, Jimmy, how you doing?
Doing fine. How are you?
Man, I am doing good. It's when it's sun shining and the weather's good. I'm always doing good. Well, I appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your Friday to answer a couple questions, and we can find out what you've been up to.
Glad to do it.
You and I first met, it's probably been maybe 5-6 years ago when they had the Memphis Rockabilly Festival here right down from Sun.
That's right. I was there, and I really enjoyed meeting you and being with the other guys, Sonny Burgess and the Pacers and other people from Sun, you know. I love coming back to Memphis. I love Memphis. You know, I spent about 4 years down in Hernando after I moved.
And you graduated actually from Hernando High School, didn't you?
Right. And going to Memphis, you know, we should go up there for like 50 cents, whatever it was. Go down to Beale Street. I've always loved Memphis.
Now, you and Alton, you're actually related.
His mother was my dad's sister, so we're first cousins.
Before you came to Sun, I mean, you guys had already been recording. You actually went down to, I believe it was New Orleans. You guys cut a record down there, a session maybe like 1957.
58. Yeah, Johnny Vincent, who owned Ace Records, you know, was based there in Jackson. We went over and auditioned for Johnny one day, and he said, "Oh, pack your bags, boys. We're going to New Orleans. We're going to record some stuff down there in Cosimo Matassa Studio."
Folks, they already told me, they sent me a couple messages to say, you know, one of our favorite songs by those guys is Got It Made in the Shade, which is, you guys cut that there.
Yes, we did. And surprise, surprise, we walk in, and Huey Piano Smith, he played piano on that.
Well, that had to blow your mind then.
It was mind-blowing. It really was. We didn't expect that, you know. But he was such a nice guy, and I loved his stuff, you know, Rockin' Pneumonia, Boogie Woogie Blue, and two right there. And we cut Got It Made in the Shade, and then a slow song that his mom and I had written called Looking for Someone. Huey's piano playing on that was just beautiful. When we ended the last take, he looked up at us and said, "Man, that's a pretty song." Coming from him as a compliment, but that song never caught on. I guess, you know, looking at us as Rockabilly, it was too slow and syrupy. And so we walked into the Roosevelt Hotel there in New Orleans, one of the best at that time, you know, carrying guitar cases. And there were a lot of people standing around with really big eyes, you know, going, "Wonder who they are." Yeah, it was quite a kick. September 1958.
And then what happened with you guys, somehow you got hooked up, I believe, and you can maybe correct me on this story, you guys got hooked up, I think it was like with somebody's manager. Was it the guy from Louisiana Hayride? Was it Tillman Frank? Is that how you guys?
Well, we had been signed by a manager there in Jackson named Melvin Cox. Melvin had recently moved there from Shreveport, Louisiana, and he had a good friend, Curly Herndon.
Oh, yeah.
Curly Herndon was a great buddy of Slim Whitman. So he said, "Look, guys, I'm going to call Curly. I'm going to take you over there." We go over on the Saturday to Curly's house, and we went in, and he said, "Okay, sing a couple of songs for me." And we did, and he said, "Okay." He said, "Number one, I'm going to put, there goes the alarm. I'm going to put you on the hayride tonight." And he picked up the phone, and we're just standing there, and knees are knocking, you know. And he said, "Hey, Sam." Well, it was Sam Phillips on the other end. And he said, "I got a couple of guys here in front of me. I want to send them up there." And he added, "Sam, you owe me one." Now, we never found out what that meant, but we didn't care. He hooked us up for going up there in April of 1959, and we thought we were going up to audition. So back to the hayride. We didn't have anything to wear to perform in, just in our street clothes, and we went to Shreveport. And so Melvin took us down to this, I guess, kind of spot with uniforms and stuff. And we picked out some shiny shirts, and Alton had on a pair of black loafers. And we got back to Curly's house, and Alton took a bottle of white shoe polish, polished it back with his black loafers, like healthy shoes, I guess. But anyway, we went on the hayride, not rehearsed with a band or anything.
Oh, my.
It was amazing. Tillman played bass, Tommy Tomlinson on the guitar, and Alton, of course, played lead guitar. And I'll tell you what, Brandon, that crowd went crazy. Just went crazy. We did Crazy Crazy Arms. Back to the phone call to Sam. Again, we thought we were going up there to audition. Well, we walk into that little lobby there, and Marion is sitting at the desk. We told her who we were. She said, "Oh, yeah, Sam's back in the control room. Let me go get him." And she goes back to the control room and says, "Where's that contract we prepared?" We get about past. She said, "Right here in the desk drawer." She pulled it out. We stood there and signed that contract on the corner of her desk.
and probably still don't know what you signed.
No, we didn't take time to read it. Anyway, we go into the session there. You know, again, not even rehearsed or anything. There's J.M. Van Eaton, for the drums, Billy Lee Ryan on bass, Roland James on the guitar. Well, it was kind of funny. I guess Roland thought he was going to play lead like he always did, or mostly did. And Alton did a few riffs, and Roland said, "You got it, bud." So he ended up playing rhythm guitar. I tell you, we only did a few takes. It was absolutely amazing. Those guys just joined in beside ourselves,
Coming 1959, you guys, by that time, the rockabilly had kind of moved away from Sun. They were doing, not popish, but you actually came back, bringing back some of that old rockabilly feel to what was not there in 1959. Because 1959, Cash is gone, Perkins is gone, and here you guys come with your own original rockabilly sound.
Well, that's right. And I don't know why Sam, he liked the flip side of No More Crying the Blues. He liked to Have Faith in My Love because it had a country sound to it. So when he released the record, he released Have Faith Love as the number one side, the A side.
Yeah, exactly.
And behold, the rockabilly song that is now a classic around the world, we're extremely proud of that. No More Crying the Blues, became the song.
I like the B-sides because I always think sometimes the B-sides were better than the A-sides. Do you think that if No More Crying the Blues was the A-side, do you think maybe DJs would have picked it up more?
Well, let me tell you what some DJs told us about. They said, you weren't country, really. You weren't rock and roll. So we didn't really know what to do with your song. That came out of the mouths of several DJs we spoke.
And they also said that about Elvis Presley, too.
Well, that's true. But, I think you're right. Had Sam put that song out as A-side, I think it would have been a hit, big hit.
So you and Alton, definitely you were the songwriters on both these songs. Great record. Did you both contribute the lyrics, or did you do lyrics and he did the instrumental, or how did that come about on those?
Let me tell you about those two songs. First, we had both had relationships in the past that didn't work out the way we thought they would, and we would talk about that a lot. It felt like we were rejected, inexperienced, and so one day we were talking about that, and he said, "Man, let's just forget all that. Let's just move on, And I said, "In other words, we're not going to have the blues anymore." He said, "That's right. Get a pencil and a piece of paper." We sat down and wrote, thinking that the way to forget all that was to just be a little involved in it on paper. That's a good thing when you're depressed sometimes. You get a pen and paper, go down, you feel. Anyway, that's behind that. Well, I started going with a girl, Erin Jackson, and we went out one night, went to drive-in movie, came home, taking her home, walked up to her door, and she said, "Well, Jimmy, from now on, I think we're just going to be friends." Oh my goodness. She said, "Yeah, I like you and all that." But so that was a Friday night. On Saturday morning, I went into the bedroom. We had two single beds in there. And I sat down on one, he sat down on the other, and I said, "Oh my goodness." I thought about the night before. So I grabbed a pencil and a paper and I started writing. Till I got to the end of Have Faith in My Love. And I handed it to him. I said, "Here, put music to it." I said, "Okay." The story behind that song.
See, that's what I like. I love the background on why these songs are written, man. Wow. So now you know. So now we know why it was the longest walk.
It was a long walk that night back to the car. I had my head down, and I'm wondering what I did wrong.
So you guys have this big record. You come to Sun, and I just want you to kind of fill everybody in. Then what happened? Because you were in the reserves. We're in the Air Force, correct?
Navy.
I'm sorry, Navy. And you had to get called. You got called back.
I did, and I don't regret it. I had a great career, retired captain. A great career, but I missed the music. I missed performing. Brandon, let me tell you about the second time we went up to Sun to record. We walk in there, and people just standing around. JM was there, and Roland was there. Sam walked out, and he said, where is Billy Lee? And somebody spoke up and said, he's in jail over in Arkansas. He said, what? He's not coming? He said, no, sir, we don't think so. He said, well, call Stan Kessler. And we waited about an hour. Stan showed up, played bass, so we went ahead and recorded. I hate telling on Billy Lee, but it's a true story. I love Billy Lee's picking and singing. I really did. He had some really great records. But, you know, Sam didn't promote Billy Lee like he should have. I don't think. He would have been a superstar had Sam gotten behind him like he did Jerry Lee and the rest of them, you know. But during that same session, we finished, and we look out and the door opens, and here comes Jerry Lee Lewis. He asked whoever was on the desk that day, he says, where's Sam? We heard him. He was talking loud, man. So, where's Sam? He said, he's back in the control room. Boy, he came storming back there and went in that control room, and we heard loud voices. He looked at Alton and he said, you boys hungry? We said, yeah, we haven't had anything to eat since last night. You know, we got up at like 4 in the morning to go up to Memphis. Anyway, he said, well, come on next door. Let's go to the cafe. Of course, that was Taylor's cafe. And we went in, and he sat in one seat in a booth. We sat in the other seat, and we had cheeseburgers, fries, and Coca-Colas with Jerry Lee Lewis. He said, I guess you wonder what all the yelling was about. Well, we didn't know what to say. You know, here's Jerry Lee Lewis talking to us like we're real people. And we just sort of kept quiet. He said, well, I'm going to tell you. He said, that fight is over royalties. He said, you know how many records I've sold? We said, yeah, we have an idea, you know. Anyway, I won't tell you what he really said, but he said, I'm leaving. I'm leaving, son. He said, I'm going to add a fiddle and steel guitar to my stuff. He said, what do you guys think about that? And I spoke up and said, well, I love what you do now. He said, well, I'm going to change it. He said, I want to tell you something else. If you say anything about this to anybody, I'll kill you both.
And that's why it's called The Killer.
But anyway, that's the first time I've told this story in public, Brandon, so I can't. But it's a true story.
I love hearing those type of stories. Now, the thing was, now you guys, so you went back into the Navy, and then I believe Alton, he joined another group. And played with those guys for probably, 10, 15 years. But you guys eventually got back together here, in the late 90s?
98.
And where have you performed overseas? I mean, where have you all been as the duo?
Barcelona and, the Screaming Festival. He said, man, we need to get back together, start doing some stuff. So we did. We met Jack. And he came from Kansas City, and his family and my cousins, aunts, and uncles, and so forth. That's where it started over in 1998, and we've been doing it ever since. We are booked to do in Las Vegas in September 12th in the main ballroom of the Orleans Hotel Casino. Along Johnson.
You guys have like a website that you have this information on where you're performing?
My wife and I have a Facebook page and so forth. There's also an Alton and Jimmy Facebook page, and I try to keep it up to date with what's going on. I'd like to invite everybody that can, our friends and fans, to come see us. We're more.
One last thing I want to ask, you have like T-shirts and stuff like that for sale, don't you?
I do.
And they can just go right to your
eBay.
Oh.
eBay. CDs and T-shirts.
All right, and that's going to have everything. I think the CD that I saw, is it like Still Rockin', or is that the name of it, or?
Still Shaking.
Still Shaking, and they can get that on eBay, and that's got all your stuff. Looking for someone that's got it made in the shade, that's your stuff from New Orleans, and then all your stuff that was at Sun, even unreleased stuff, and then a couple new ones, too.
It's all on there, man. It's all on there.
We will definitely put a link up to that, and I know this is always a hard question, but I'll ask you this one, then we'll end it with this. Do you have a favorite song that you recorded?
Well, I do. It's called What's the Use?
Oh, wow. Yeah, the unreleased one up there on Sun.
Right. I thought that was as far as harmony and so forth, I just love it. And it's a funny thing, the stage band out at Viva Las Vegas, the bass player, Shorty Poo, and first time we went out there, he said, everybody talks about No More Crying the Blues, but he said, let me tell you what my favorite song is. And we looked at him, and he goes, what's the use? We were at rehearsal, and he said, please sing that for me if you would. And we sang a line or two and said, that's enough. Rockabilly. Not rockabilly. It's more country. But
it's all on that CD. Well, man, I really appreciate you doing this today, and now I got the hard task of performing these songs correctly.
Brandon, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.